All right, so we're streaming now. This is streaming off of. Okay.
Oh, I see the live. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. This is totally. This is totally. We're just totally iterating through this process here. All right. Okay. Figuring it out as we go here. All right. Let's create a quick agenda, and then that way we can focus on making this as
Painless.
yeah, useful, all the painless, useful, all that. I just need a sec here. I'm going to create a Google Doc.
Oh, that was the wrong one.
So I'm going to call this the weekly ADM ADSM working session. This would be 10/27/23. So we're going to go just for an hour at the most, because I want to be mindful that this is during 9 to 5. So I'm going to share my screen out, and then okay, can everybody see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
So this is video number 17, weekly ADM ADSM working session, 10/27/23. Okay, so what I was going to say for an agenda, one was, let's pick a scenario, and we have Vinay online. And Vinay, what we were going to do is pick a scenario and then try to put it into, take an example that you've put together and just try to replicate it. That's what that's kind of where we're at. Like, TJ, are you in agreement there? Because I don't think I'm up on the language spec, other than I briefly read it over, the ADM language, the language spec. So that was my approach, was to let's take something that we know works, and then we'll go from there. Does that sound good? Unless, Vinay, if we pick an example, we get your feedback and make sure that we're going the right direction.
Yeah, I can help you guys lay out the model based on your use case. Like, you pick a scenario, anything that's interesting for you to create a model on, and I can help you in between based on how things are going.
Okay. All right. TJ, do you have a preference on a past?
No. Nope, no preference at all.
Okay. Do we have something already laid out? Maybe we should just start really simple, because there was an article that we had been going through. Let me see if I can offline. I'll find it real quick. My other screen, I'll find it real quick.
Oh my.
All right. I'm just opening up. Okay. This is we had started to put together a folder where we're doing a couple things. We read through security chaos engineering. We took some notes on it, and then we also started to break down really simple articles that talked about various attacks.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, yeah. This is an article that we had found. Copy this and I'll put it into. These are real simple examples. So maybe if we start with a simple example, then we can build up to something a little bit more.
So if you haven't, so it looks like you have a scenario in place.
Yeah, these were examples that we broke down where
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in the right browser to be able to read this.
Normally, what I do when I'm presenting this is start with a simple example of you have a virtual machine, maybe on Linode or AWS, and you have exposed it to the internet. So that normally gets people started thinking on how to secure it and what kind of attacks are possible on it.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you don't have a scenario, that's probably the easiest you can start with.
Yeah. Why don't we do that? Because yeah. Okay. So let's see. So our scenarios we have an AWS EC2 instance, and it is publicly accessible.
Yeah, just launched. You haven't put any firewall, so anybody from internet can ping it.
It's like just launched, and like the security group uses the default security group.
Yeah.
Group, and it has with anywhere access, right?
Yeah.
On any port, right? And there's no key authentication is not enforced.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So you may have a default credential if you want to consider. If not, it's up to you how you want to get the base definition in place.
When you say different credential, do you mean like you're using like the AWS? Like some people use like a PEM key. Is that what you mean? Or
need not be. Normally, when people launch virtual machines, they just create a root password that's pretty easy to use. They don't use keys. So your user is root, password is something guessable. Maybe root/root.
User is root, password is root, or something easy to remember. Okay. Should we open an example, or what do you think would be the best way to go? Because I could open up. My thought was I would open VS Code in the directory that I have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So I have a workspace GitHub project now for VS Code. So if you download that, let me give you the link to that.
Okay. Oh, awesome. Yeah, I can.
Yeah. So in chat, you should have, yeah. So I put a link in the chat.
Okay.
So if you make a copy of this project into any project directory that you have, you can have multiple ADM projects running in parallel. So you can create an empty directory, put contents of this project in there, and when you launch Visual Studio Code from the directory, it'll just set up everything for you.
Oh, nice. So let me go and so this is the workspace. And then if let's go into here. Well, let me just do this. Let me just make a directory for today's date.
Yep.
Okay, and then I'll okay. Okay.
Visual Studio should automatically ask you, do you want to open the dev container? Did it? No. In that case, you may have to open the workspace directory instead of the.
Oh, okay. Let me
do
this. Let me CD into the workspace directory, and then I'll just reopen VS Code. And then for everybody, I'm going to put the workspace link here. It's in the chat. All right, awesome. Okay.
It should, if it's not asking you to start the container, if you click on the blue button on the bottom left. Yeah, it should say reopen in container. Yeah.
Oh, I need to run Docker. I have to have Docker running.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
All right.
Hey, Vinay, how is this any different? What's the difference with what he's doing right now than if you follow the README within your ADSM Git? Because that's what I did, and I opened them. I cloned them through MS Code and followed the README to install there.
So this goes a step further and prepares an execution environment for you. So it does the same thing. It clones both the repositories, installs it on the local directory structure. What you have done is basically downloaded and installed it on your computer. This goes a step further and downloads it into a Docker container, and it is set up to open in VS Code. So when you open a directory containing this, it automatically launches the container and gives it as a workspace for you. So it's a self-contained workspace.
You don't have to go
Yeah.
through installing Go and installing the packages for graphing. All the packages are pre-contained.
Yes, everything comes pre-packaged for you.
Okay, so it just makes it much easier than what we went through last week.
Yes. Just that you need Docker and Visual Studio Code.
Make sure that the Docker daemon running. Oh, it's still starting.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah. So I just need to give it a minute here to start Docker. All right, so Docker's running.
Yeah. So if you go back to Visual Studio Code and try to do the run in container, reopen in container again.
Okay, so starting up.
Yeah. So it'll install a bunch of tools, including the latest Go version. It'll clone the latest copies of both the tools. So it takes around 30 seconds to a minute. But going forward, it should be easy because Docker would have already cached everything. So next time you start it, probably it takes 2 seconds to get it in up and running.
Yeah, this is nice. Is there anything we could do while we're waiting for it to start up? Maybe talk about the. Does it make sense to maybe talk about the language spec a bit?
Sure, definitely we can.
Let me. Go back to the other window where we had. Kind of ground things to a halt here on my machine. Let me. Yeah. Let me let this finish. Also, see if I can. See if I can bring up the language spec.
I just finally got this thing to work when I hit stat for the first time.
Nice.
Now let's gonna see what happens when we I've got to remember the next command. After you stat it, you have to get the graph viz made. Back to the README. Otherwise, I won't remember.
Okay, Vinay, let's see where this is. This is still work its way through, but if we go to the language spec,
So the language spec kind of starts with the entire language list, but the simplest for you to focus on is the model, attack, and defense sections. The rest are slightly more advanced, which I would suggest you don't start with.
so just this portion of it right here, like the
Yeah.
model.
Remove the assumptions. Yeah, minus the assumptions one. So
if we start with something, and while we're waiting for Visual Studio Code, I'll just do this in here. We do something like this. Take this and start with the cold blocks.
and just remove the assumption section because that's an advanced feature.
Okay, so let's remove assumptions. Now, would it be good to start with an example that we had seen before, or?
You can pick one of the examples from the project, or we can start writing it down for the scenario we just described.
Okay. Yeah, we could just go off the scenario.
Yeah. So just to clean things up a bit, after the model title, the 2 lines, you can remove them. Yeah. Give the model a title that you want.
So maybe like insecure EC2.
Yep.
Okay. And then
now comes the first question. What is the very first step an attacker would try when you expose an EC2?
Probably brute force attack, password brute force attack. Try root with some combination of passwords using a rainbow table or dictionary or something.
So before he does that, he needs to scan your ports. He first has to find out if SSH exists.
Sure, yeah.
So the first attack step is basically port scan.
Port scan.
And here, normally you can use, I think it was from CIA or NSA. They have this attack chain definition. So they start the first stage as reconnaissance. Let me pull that up for you. Yeah, this was from Lockheed Martin. It's something called a cyber kill chain. I'll drop the link here. So you typically can use this framework to define your attacks.
So in terms of how we would label the attack, would we like preface this attack with like reconnaissance port scan, something like that?
You
Just
can say reconnaissance - port scan.
port scan. I spelled that wrong. Okay.
And now the given statements are the preconditions that should exist for this attack step to succeed. So one given condition is that your EC2 should be running OpenSSH server.
Server is running SSH.
Yeah.
Server.
So normally OpenSSH runs on port 22. So in the when stage, you say, so when defining statements, there is one best practice that I normally tell people is to don't start with an action word or a verb, because when you read it, it becomes difficult to understand. Start it with a noun or something that's not a action word. So when you can say, when target is scanned for open ports, for example.
When target is scanned. Ports.
You can say then is the result that you expect out of that attack step. So you can say then port 22 is exposed. Port 22 is reported, something like that.
And port
Okay.
2 is reported. Okay.
Yep. So just this itself should give you a very basic model when you run it through the tool.
Oh, just this bit right here?
Yeah, up until this line, the 5 lines that you've written, copy it into Visual Studio Code, push it through the tool.
Okay. It looks like this Visual Studio Code ended up restarting.
It brings up attack recon port scan. That is cool.
So were you able to generate the model, TJ?
Yeah, I input the model. This is my second
Nice.
model now that I've gotten to work. I input the model real fast and just ran it, and it worked.
Yep. So it should be connecting this attack step to attacker wins because there are no defenses.
Do you have to now? That was my other question from when you talked to us the other week. If you're just using ADM and not ADSM, it's not going to bring up attacker wins, right?
No. So ADM is just to build those diagrams.
and
ADSM
that's the step we're at right now, and especially for me is just building a diagram and getting the diagram to stat, and then I'll graph the diagram and you're like, okay, hey, look, it is making a picture.
Yeah. Now ADSM is designed to build such ADMs for multiple entities. Let's say you have an architecture where you have an EC2 instance, and then on the front you have a web server, and on the back you have a database.
Yes, sir.
We are talking of a proper cloud-based application. Think of any e-commerce company like Amazon, Alibaba. Any of them has this 3-layer structure. Now you can create ADSM for each of these pieces. One for web server, one for EC2 instance, one for the database. And then when you want to put all of them together, you use ADSM. ADSM is when you want to blow it up to an architecture level.
Yes, sir.
So you will have to build ADMs for every entity you are working on, and only then you get into ADSM.
Yeah. Okay. did a graph.
Hey, Vinay, I ended up having a problem with. I just want to.
Okay.
I've got to drop at the top of the hour. So what I did is I just. I'll have to troubleshoot this other error that I'm having.
Yeah.
But I do want to continue with the model. So I'm just going to bring up the VS Code where I have ADM set up.
Yeah, I just graphed it.
Everything.
And it came out with wins.
Oh, nice. So I'm just going to do this. I am going to under tests. I'll create a new file.
Mm-hmm.
A new ADM. Where's it? Source. No, wait. It's back one. Okay, so I'm going to make a new. I'll just do it on examples. So I'll call it unsecured ec2.adm.
Yep.
And just drop this in there. Okay. And then I gotta admit, I gotta go back to my cheat sheet for the commands.
So one trick to remember the command is ADM is the primary command, and it has 3 subcommands: stat, graph, and export. Stat just gives you a bunch of statistics. Graph gives you the diagram. Export exports it into other formats.
Okay. So if I could just do then ADM and then the path to the. I could do
You'll have
ADM
to say stat or graph. Yeah, correct.
Stat and then tests, examples, EC2, unsecured EC2. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, nice. Okay.
So now just change stat to graph, and you should have your GraphViz file.
So the stat is just to make sure that you that you wrote it right, and it's gonna.
Correct.
It's basically a bug check.
Yes. So its main purpose is bug check. Sometimes people use it to generate a bunch of logs if they have a bigger automation for some kind of larger project.
Mm-hmm.
Offline, one thing you can also do is Visual Studio has a GraphViz plugin that can render the image for you. So if you want the name, I can probably drop it in the chat. Something that you may want to do offline later.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really cool, isn't it, Rod?
Yeah, this is really cool. Wow. Okay.
So there's a VS Code plugin called Interactive GraphViz. If you install that, you don't even have to generate the diagram. You just open the dot file. It lets you interact with the file.
Okay. Is that Let's see.
So just
Big pull to get
search
that.
for GraphWiz in the extensions.
Okay. GraphWiz. That's GraphWiz, right?
Yeah, the first one that you see.
The graph is dot.
Yes.
All right, there we go.
And then this
So,
dot file, right?
yeah, just open the dot file and so if you do Command Shift P, it opens up command option on top
Shift P.
and says look for GraphWiz.
GraphWiz.
Yes. Run that and it will render that for you.
Nice.
So normally what I do is I don't even convert it into PNG. I just run my ADM tool, and because it's Visual Studio, it will automatically refresh the diagram for me.
Sorry about that. That's my dog. All
No
right.
problem.
Yeah, she likes to bark at the school bus going by. All right. Okay, so now we have this created. So now you were saying, sorry, I didn't catch the last thing you said because of the barking.
Yeah. So all I'm saying is once you modify the model and run the ADM tool, you can see Visual Studio automatically refresh the diagram for you.
Oh, nice. So like all we have to do is go back to this. Let's say now we go back to this and we add the second bit, which is the fence.
Yeah.
Okay. We decide to do this all here. Okay. And then is there, just given that we're trying to do the cyber kill chain model, is there a particular way that we should?
So defense can either be preemptive, that's you design it into the system, or you defend by monitoring. There are two options you have. Port scan cannot be really blocked because you need legit people to connect over that port. So all you can do is monitor for port scans. So your defense, the best defense you can have for this step is basically monitoring.
So something like monitor for port scanning?
Yeah.
And
so you
this,
can copy the same given statement, because for this defense to work, you have to expose your EC2 first. And the trick here is you copy the then statement into the when line of the defense. Not the when, the then. The port 22
okay.
is reported. Copy that one into the when section.
Okay.
Yeah. In the then section, you can say, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to alert the monitoring folks, or do you want to log it?
Then the scanning activity is logged, and the ops team is alerted.
Yep.
Okay.
One interesting thing with the language is the and line can be moved to the next line. So you can have multiple steps.
Oh, nice.
So you just have to capitalize the A so that the language can handle the keyword correctly. Yeah.
Okay. And
So
then,
now when you run ADM, yep, you go back to Visual Studio. You don't have, it should have refreshed it. Or you press the refresh button on the top toolbar. On the preview, there is the top left, like just below this, that
oh,
there
yeah,
are two
here we go.
buttons, right?
Yes.
Yeah. For me, normally Visual Studio does the refresh automatically. I don't know whether here some configuration is changed.
Yeah, it should have created a new GraphVis file, right?
Yeah, it should have overwritten the same file already.
Let me refresh. I
Or
mean,
you
it
can
just
just
could be.
open it.
What's that? Sorry.
Yeah. Or you
Just
can just
close.
open the file again and try it.
Okay. So open to the side, and then.
Okay, got that. That's going.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Yep.
Nice.
So now you see that there is no attacker wins because there's a defense to deal with it.
Nice. Nice.
So now you just keep repeating this story over and over till you get the entire graph.
I'll take care of that. Go put a shirt on. Give me the costume before you pluck it up.
This is awesome. Thank you, Vinay. It's our goal every Friday to meet, and probably over the week, TJ and I meet every morning really, really early before work starts,
Mhm.
and we look at different attack path models, and I think this is a really good way for us to start. And what we'll do over the next week is pick a scenario and then just build out an ADM file for it.
Mhm.
And then we'll. I know TJ, you've started to contribute, right, to the link I posted.
Yeah, I saved that link. And then now that I'm actually like, hey, I've built 2 models that are working versus like the last 4 that I attempted. No idea where I went wrong with them, but it would stat nothing. It would just stack a bunch of equal signs, and I'm like, well, I know that's not going to graph because there's nothing in it. But now I've got a little bit better handle of, okay, here we go. This is how we start to write it.
I'm pretty much at a good breaking point because I have to be off before 4 o'clock. By 4 o'clock. But TJ, I didn't know if you wanted to continue, or Vinay.
No, I'm good. I mean, it's almost 4 anyway. I just have one question about, because if anybody watches this with the I installed the extension and I'm going to my GraphViz ... Now, how do I get it to automatically preview the way you have Rod doing it?
Normally, that's Visual Studio doing it for you. You don't need any configuration changes. Sometimes you may have to restart Visual Studio because it's just not propagated the config changes. Like after you install the extension, somehow that auto pop-up is not configured. So I just kill Visual Studio and reopen it again normally.
Yeah, let
Okay.
me try that. So if I,
because I've already quit Visual Studios once and it didn't want to.
well, it's definitely something to play with during this week. Could we set you up with? We have a Discord server where we're all collaborating on. Could we invite you to that?
Yes, please. I
And
can
we-
definitely answer questions there. Discord is probably much faster on fixing these kind of hiccups, so that you don't have to waste time during the live session.
Do you have we have a Discord server, but if you had something preferred, we could go to that. But if not, we can invite you to our Discord server.
You can invite me to yours. I don't have any specific server.
Okay.
So
All right.
yeah. So I think you will
can-
send me a link, right? And I can join through that.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll do that.
I can send that. Okay. I want to thank you for introducing this to us, and we're excited about. We're believers, and every week we're going to be improving our knowledge and going through more tech scenarios and contributing to that repo you sent us. We're going to create ADM files.
Yeah. Just one last line about that repo I sent. I have been trying to create my own set of ADMs for the most recent hacks. So some of those may be interesting for you to see how I have written it and how does that map to the blog from where I figured it out.
Definitely. Yeah, we'd like to. I know I'd like to stylistically get better at this because I having what was you were also talking about putting together a database of these ADM. Is it going to be the repo, or is there something else that will be the kind of the container for the ADM files?
So currently it would be that repo ADDB. Even the structure is not decided yet, but long term it will have a much more better structure. Like you can group everything by vendor, everything by the company that got hacked, or everything by the technology that got hacked. So
that'll be very
but
nice.
we are not yet at that place, but you will have enough items there to go through and kind of what do you say, get your feet wet on stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I got to tell you, there's a hole for this, because in places where I work, and I'm sure TJ sees the same way, there's no why. Like you either have some vendor solution that you buy and they just give you a bunch of rules and they say do this because you bought the licensing, or you have some consultant or MSSP that gives you like these really amorphous threat actors, and then all of a sudden they just fast forward to the rules, right? There's nothing like in between, and this is that, like, why would I need this? Why would I need to spend money and time on this countermeasure? And this gives me this why, and that's what really excites me about this.
That was the reason that led me to create the tool in the first place. So we are on the same page.
Yes. Well, we're advocates for you, man. We are followers, and thank you for putting this all together for us.
Thank you. And I'm also working on some feature additions. Probably 2 months down the line, they'll be out. But
Awesome.
I can probably post it on the Discord, so you guys can try.
Okay.
Well, Vinay, thanks for stopping by again today.
It was my pleasure.
All right. Vinay, TJ, Shane, I know William was on, but looked like he had to drop. I'll go ahead and close the live stream out then. Have a great afternoon.
All right, y'all too.
You too.